Hi, hello. I've had to record this once already, and all of the clips were out without sound. So let's go for a round two, huh? Hi, my name is Teresa. Today we are going to go over everything that I have read in this first quarter of 2024. I have thought about doing a monthly wrap up, but I do not believe that that is something that I can keep up with. So I'm doing it quarterly. Meaning in today's video, we will be going over books that I have read in January, February, March, and April. And I do want to take a moment to apologize for the quality of my audio for all of my videos, if I'm being honest. I bought these little tiny microphones to help with it, but when I pin them to my shirt, my hair causes noise. And if I hit a specific part of it, it also makes noise. So I am still trying to figure out how to get that working for me in a way that is beneficial to both me and you. But enough with my own failings. Let's go ahead and get into this video, shall we? The first book that I read in 2024 was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. It is a part of a duology, the Shepherd King duology. The second one came out recently, I believe. I will not be reading it because I hated this book. I rated it 2 stars. It is about a girl who, in this magical world where magic is not permitted unless you have these special cards. You know, I'm really not sure what I'm really not sure what the overall point of this book is. Oh, I'm so sorry you guys are seeing my couch. The rip in my couch from my cat laying. That's embarrassing. Uh, so I'm really not sure what One Dark Window is about. Um, it is a gothic fantasy of sorts. Magic through cards, which is something that I would think that I would like, but I found a lot of the elements of this story were very underdeveloped. There were things that the main character did not know and was asking questions about that I was confused as to why she would not know these specific answers. I felt that the magic system was a little bit underdeveloped. Loved the idea, but the execution was very, very lacking. I didn't buy into the romance that was set in this. I didn't like the pacing. I didn't like the twists. I didn't like so much of this story, and I feel so badly about it because so many people really, really like this book. I am not one of them. I have FOMO about it. Um, I wish I got it. I don't. The second book that I read in January was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, a part of Shades of Magic. It is about Kel, who is one of the last of the Antari, who are these magical people who can travel between different dimensions. One thing that stays the same about the dimensions is London. We have Red London, Grey London, and White London. I liked Kel. I really liked Ree. I believe that's how you say the prince's name. I did not like Lila Bard. I think that V.E. Schwab had a wonderful opportunity to explore gender expression, and she just did not take it. Instead, Lila Bard is kind of a pick me, women hating, insufferable woman. She was very much, I'm not like other girls. And I was not a fan of that. It took me a while to get into the book because of that, but I did like the plot mostly for Kel and Ree and Holland. I really wanted to see a little bit more of Red London, and I've just started A Gathering of Shadows, and it looks like that is where I'm going to get more of Red London. I did rate this 4 stars because it did really pick up. After the 50% mark, I did become really invested. I even started to like Lila a little bit more, and there is a place where V.E. Schwab could go with her character that I would really like, but I don't think she is going to do that. So I'm going to have to suffer through Lila Bard a little bit more, I guess. The next book that I read was my first 5 star of 2024, and that is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. A gothic story that uses fairy tales and explores these deeper themes and heavy topics with beautiful prose and just deeply relatable characters. I very much enjoyed it. I love Ava Reed's work. Love to see it. I cannot wait to see what else she comes out with. I do have a more in-depth review of this book particularly on my channel already, so go ahead and go check that out if you want more deets. And if you want some spoilery content on that. The next book that I read was Iron Widow by Jiren J. Zhao. And I rated it 4 stars. It is a sci fi fantasy that is really good for fans of mecha anime. The next book that I read was a sequel. It's The Girl in the Tower, which is the second book in the Winter Night trilogy. The first book was The Bear and the Nightingale. I really enjoyed reading Vasia's story continue. This one had a little bit more romance in it, just a tad more. I hear the third book has even more, so I am excited to read that. It was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I very much enjoy this series. I don't know what's missing that's giving it not 5 stars, but I'm enjoying it, but it's not knocking my socks off. The next book is a S&P St. Martin's Press title, so I will not be reviewing it, which is a shame because I thought it was very good. The next book that I read was Gideon the Ninth. I loved this. I gave it 4 stars. The only reason that I took a star off was because it was, I would say it was dense at times with descriptions of the castle that they were in, yet I still couldn't picture it. There was also, while I love the immersion into magic systems, it was a little bit too much immersion where I was lost. I truly felt like getting in where I had no idea what the fuck was going on. That being said, I love Gideon. I love Harrowhawk. I loved so much of this book. I loved the voice. It was just so good. I do have a reading vlog for this, so if you wanted to see my journey through this book, then go check that out. I rated it 4 stars in the end. I don't know if I already said that. And the last book that I read in January, technically it did bleed over into February, but only by a few days, was Jade Legacy, which is the third book in the Greenbone saga by Fonda Lee. I loved this trilogy. I gave each one of them a 4 stars. The only reason that I took off a star from it is because I personally would like to see a little bit more of certain characters and moments with them, and there was a few characters where I just wanted more of their story, but this is such a unique series. It's a fantasy series that follows a clan on the fictional island of Kakon. And They are green bones, which are people who are able to harness the bioenergetic properties of jade, and it gives them power. It gives them super speed, super strength. They have specific terms for these things like channeling, lightness. It's a very rich world, and I loved it. I love the characters. You specifically followed this one family over 20 years, and you just get attached to them, and it's such an interesting way of storytelling that it was it's really indescribable, but it could not be for everyone because it does span the whole series spans a huge amount of time. Overall, it's like 25 years. The 3 books go over. And so you see some characters come and go, characters die, and it's really a lot. And by the end, you are just attached to these characters without even realizing that you have become attached to them. And you end up crying 3 times while reading the final book. I literally reading the like last 20 pages, I was just laying in bed sobbing. This was so good. Gave it 4 stars. Like I said, the scope of it just didn't allow for certain characters to have more in-depth moments that I would have liked. And there were a few endings that I was disappointed in, but overall, fantastic. Loved it. And that is all I have for January's reading. I will see you guys for my February wrap up. Hi, Ursa. Do you have anything to say? I will see you guys in my February wrap up. I will not always shoot these videos, these quarterly videos like this piecemeal. Sometimes I will tackle them all 4 months in one sitting, but with this one, I have the time, so why not? That is all from me and Ursa. Okay, so we're gonna go over my reads for February. I started out the month reading an advance reader's copy of Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. Thank you to NetGalley for that. It is a retelling of Shakespeare's Macbeth through the lens of a Lady Macbeth who is not a conniving murderess, but just a girl who is trying to survive by any means, and paints Macbeth as a man who orchestrates his own demise. Much like Ava Reid's other works, it deals with the struggles that come along with womanhood. It also incorporates folklore that is relevant to the story. The prose is great as usual. I love her prose. And I very much liked the small little detail of the different names that she uses depending on the character and where they are from. They would refer to places with different names, and they would refer to people by different names. And I really liked how that kind of played into the theme of true naming and the power that true names have in the story and claiming your name. And it was just really good. I loved it. She also adds more fantastical elements to a story that already has a fantastical element. And I will say that if you like Ava Reid's other books, or if you are a big fan of Macbeth, I would say that this is has a slightly different feel than Ava Reid's other book. And as a fan of Macbeth, do not go into this thinking that this is going to be a one-for-one story. There are some names that are used that are similar, but the characters are very different. It is a reimagining. It's not a like different perspective of the same story. It tells a different story, but with Lady Macbeth's name. but I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. The second book that I read was Midnight is the Darkest Hour, which follows Ruth as a body is discovered in the bog swamp of her town. And Ruth is the pastor's daughter, but she has a dark past that is intertwined with her childhood friend, Everett. And she learns a lot about her town in this novel through this murder case that is going on. And it was just good old fun. There is allusions to sexual assault. There is allusions to pedophilia. There is a lot. I would definitely check out the trigger warning for this book, as well as Lady Macbeth, the book I mentioned previously, because that also deals with some heavier topics as well. But this was interesting. There was a lot of Twilight mentions in it. It very much was, I don't know, it called to me in a way. It goes back and forth between past and present. Ruth's childhood and her adolescence, and I enjoyed it and gave it 4 stars. The third book is an audiobook. It is number 2 in the Atlas series, Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake. I really vibed with the Atlas 6, just vibes alone. The story was okay. In this one, the vibes were dampened. I did not like the addition of Ezra's voice actor. This is a full cast narration, so each character has a different person voicing their chapters. I had some issues that I didn't quite note in the first book when I listened to it. In this one, I wish that there was some consultation between the voice actors as to how they are portraying their character voices, because they're very different from chapter to chapter depending on who is speaking. So I had that issue. Besides that, nothing really happens in this book. They are passively trying to deal with a problem from the first book while also trying to complete like independent studies, and it just nothing much happens. So I gave it 3 stars. Next we have another audiobook, Take a Hint, Dani Brown, number 2 in the Brown sisters trilogy of romances. And this one follows Danica, who is a PhD student who teaches some classes, and it is with her and Zafir and Sari. Zafir being the security guard of the building she works in. And they go viral after somebody films him rescuing her from a broken elevator, and they decide to fake date and use this opportunity to bring a little bit more attention to Zaf's rugby charity that he does to help boys like get their aggression out. It was very cute, steamy. I just don't remember the ending of it, and I'm trying to be a little bit more harsh with my romance ratings and really only rate above 3 stars if it is like exceptional. I liked this. I didn't think it was exceptional, so I did give it just 3 stars. Next is number 3 in the Winter Nights trilogy, The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. It is the last book of the series, and it continues the story of Vasya and her discovering who she is and her connection to the Winter King, and that is all I will say on that. I gave this book 4 stars. It was a very nice ending to the story. Next, I listened to a very short audiobook, We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. It was a very concise, basic start to feminism, and because of that, I did give it just 3 stars. It's just not where my understanding of feminism is. I very much would like to see more talk of intersectionality that includes trans folks in the discussion, and that was very apparently missing from this. I will say that this is a book that is a little bit older. It is 10 years old. And I also realized, very quick side note, I recently listened to Flawless by Beyonce, and I typically listen to the Nicki Minaj remix, but I listened to the one without Nicki on it, and I realized that this was where that little monologue that is intercut throughout the song, that is from this audiobook. So that was, I was just like, oh, I've heard this before, and oh my god, it was a really interesting moment, but there's an obvious lack of discussion on gender beyond a binary. And I know I'm beyond that, but this is a good starting point if you are looking to just start your journey with feminism. I then read Heir Apparent by Vivian van Velde. It was a reread for me, and I have a video on my page that discusses it in depth. I gave it 2 stars, and you can go to that video to see me ruin a book from my childhood for myself. It's full of problematic stuff, so go ahead and check out that video and see why I don't recommend it. We have A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which is part 2 in the Shades of Magic trilogy or series. I actually don't know if it's a trilogy or a series. I know that Fragile Threads of Power is somehow related to the story. Anyways, I started to like Delilah Bard more in this one, and I liked where we went with other characters, but I do realize that I think I have a pacing problem with V.E. Schwab. She spent entirely too long on the buildup of this story, and we didn't get to the real meat of it until over halfway through, which I did enjoy to a point. This did leave on a cliffhanger, so it was really just build up for the third novel. And honestly, I kind of wish that it would have just been one full, concise novel. I'm not sure if the introduction of a specific character is going to have much weight in this third book. So if it does not, then I feel like this second book was entirely unnecessary, but I did enjoy it more than A Darker Shade of Magic. So I gave it 4 stars, where I believe I actually don't remember what I gave A Darker Shade of Magic. Anyways, I gave it 4 stars. I'm still a little wary, so we'll see. I then listened to Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. She has a very heavy Scottish accent, so it took me a moment to get into it, but this is a memoir that explores the reality of being a woman undiagnosed with autism, as well as being a sex worker, as well as being in an abusive relationship, and just all of that. It's a very raw look at Fern's life, and she narrates the book, which is why I mentioned the strong Scottish accent, and it talks about her breaking into comedy and all of that. I liked it, but much like romance, I tend to rate memoirs very leniently. So I'm trying to save that 4 and 5-star rating for books that are really exceptional or blow me away or stick with me for a very long time. And while I thought this was a very good story, I just gave it a 3 stars because it didn't connect with me in the way that I was hoping. Next on the list, we have another audiobook. I was listening to a lot of books this month. In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, who is also the narrator. It is a memoir specifically about Carmen's relationship with a past girlfriend and the abuse that she experienced in that relationship. I rated it 5 stars. It was very evocative. I really like Carmen Maria Machado's writing style. The prose was really good in it. I feel like I know what the dream house is, but I don't know if I can articulate it. But I do think that I will be thinking about it for a long while, and I really can't wait to read more of Carmen Maria Machado's work because I have not read a whole ton of it, any of it really, besides this book and her edited version of Carmilla. And the last book that I listened to in February was Accidentally Engaged. by Farah Heron. Now, this follows Rena, who is a aspiring cook. She loves to make bread, but she works in, I believe, the financial arena, and her parents have arranged a marriage to a man who has just moved in across the way from her, named Nadim. He has a British accent. It's really, really cute. And they have to, it's another fake dating situation. She enters a cooking competition, but is a cooking competition where it's done in duos and you have to be married to that person or engaged to that person. And so they work out this little deal, even though she is not planning on marrying this man. Like, she has told him multiple times that she's not marrying him. He's respecting her decision on that. There's a lot of family dynamics in this. It was okay. It was good. I liked it, but it was just a 3 stars for me. And yeah, I tried to read Harrow the Ninth and I had to give up on that, and I'm going to return to it later. And I'm currently reading another arc, which I am really enjoying. So I will check in again for March and talk about those books, and then we'll wrap up and I'll upload this video. Let's get into the books that I read for March. I started off the month with an advanced reader copy of a book called Your Blood, My Bones. It's a book that follows a young woman who returns to her childhood home out in the middle of nowhere, and she finds that her childhood friend is chained up in her basement, her family's basement, and we find out that he is immortal. And there is magic that her family does in order to keep these dark creatures that are in the forest around this home at bay. He, on the other hand, has made a deal with one of these dark creatures that if he kills our female main character, then he gets to return to his home. So there is some tension between the two, and it's also going over memories that they have experienced in their past, and it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It is set to publish on the day that I am filming, April 2nd. Go check it out. It's really good. Next was the start of my listening to feminine literature. I listened to quite a few books that fall into that category, and I started with Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot by Mikki Kendall. I believe it's pronounced Mickey and not Mikey. I really enjoyed listening to this. I thought it was very thorough in speaking about intersectional feminism in all of its iterations across class, race, and gender. It very much encompassed all of that, and I enjoyed it immensely. Next, I listened to Feminism is for Everybody, Passionate Politics by Bell Hooks. Oh, I gave Hood Feminism 5 stars. Feminism is for Everybody, Passionate Politics, I gave 4 stars. It was also very thorough. I like Bell Hooks's writing because it talks about more theory, where it is, this is how we can implement systems and how we can come together as a community to achieve things. It did not super talk about gender in a way that I hoped. I know Bell Hooks is a little bit older. I'm pretty sure she actually is not with us anymore, but I meant like her theories, her place in the movement, I believe is a little bit older. She refers to males and females. She speaks from the point of sexuality in terms of lesbians, but I don't remember much talk about gay men's role in feminism or even discussion of gender, whether it be non-binary, trans. There was no real mention of that intersection. The next book that I read was The Will to Change. Well, I listened to this one as well. The Will to Change Men, Masculinity, and Love by Bell Hooks. I gave this one 3 stars, and it talks about the role that men play in feminism and how masculinity is important, but how it needs to be redefined and how one might do so. I gave it 3 stars because I didn't find it as engaging, but then again, this is not for me. This is for men to listen to, and I feel like if there is a man in your life who is looking to get into feminism and what they can do for the movement, this is a really good book. Next, I read Full Metal Alchemist Volume 1 and 2 of the Full Metal Edition. These combine, I believe, 2 of the regular volumes into one. So if we're talking regular terms, I believe it's volumes 1 through 4, but I'm not really sure how the publisher set that up. I really like the Full Metal editions. They're hardback. They have a really nice cover with character art, and the title and the issue numbers, they're metallic. It's a metallic color for the title, and it has a few pages that are colored. It's a really nice quality. And the reason that I read it in this form is because I love Full Metal Alchemist. I own a large portion of the single volumes that I bought when they were coming out when I was a preteen slash teenager. If you have not read Full Metal Alchemist, or if you do not read manga, I suggest picking up this series. It's really, really good. It follows 2 brothers who lost their mother when they were young, and in response, they tried to use alchemy to bring her back. And in that process, one of them, Al, loses his entire body, and Ed loses his leg, and then sacrifices his arm to bring his brother's soul back and to bind it to a piece of, well, a suit of armor. And it follows them as they are now pursuing the Philosopher's Stone, not to bring their mother back, but to regain their bodies. They have learned the errors of their ways and know that you cannot bring somebody back from the dead. And it's kind of their adventures while they try to find that. There are 2 animes based on this manga series. The first came out while the series was still being published, and it came to a point where the anime caught up with the manga in story and veered off in a different direction. I still really like that one. And then the more popular anime series, which started either right after the manga wrapped up or right when it was wrapping up, was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And it is almost a 1-for-1 of the manga, so it's really good as well. Continuing on with my audiobooks about feminism, I listened to Rage Becomes Her, The Power of Women's Anger by Soraya Chemaly, or Shamali, I believe is how you pronounce her name. For Rage Becomes Her, for some reason, it's not taking my rating in Goodreads, but I would have rated it 4 stars. I think it is a great exploration into rage and the emotion of anger and how it presents in women and how we're taught to internalize it and how that presents itself. And yeah, I thought it was really well written, and I really liked so much about it. The next audiobook I listened to was Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. I gave this 4 stars. It is by Amanda Montell. I liked it to an extent. One criticism that I saw in the reviews for it is that it doesn't come at it from like a huge linguistics perspective. What it does do is it does touch on phrases, how they're appealing. It goes into specific, very specific cultish groups from what is the name of that fitness thing? I want to call it Kickoff. It's not, What is it? What is it? What is it? Oh my god. CrossFit. From CrossFit to Heaven's Gate and Jonestown. It goes into basically how humans crave connection and how that can go to extremes like Heaven's Gate, and how it can just be an MLM that you join or CrossFit. It was interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's a very special interest of mine are these groups that people form, the community, and it basically does state how it's not necessarily because they prey on disadvantaged people, but more everyone craves community. And I thought it was an interesting framing of the concept. And if you are also into MLMs, true crime in regards to cults and also like say religion, then I think that you might like this book as well. While reading volumes 1 and 2 of Full Metal Alchemist, I also read So Let Them Burn. I did not like it. I either have or will have a more in-depth review on the book on my channel soon, so keep an eye out for that if you want to see why. I rated it 2 stars, which means that it had potential. It just didn't land for me. I ended the month with a 5-star read. I read Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, and it was so good. This has been on my TBR for a while, and I just did not realize how good it would be. None of T. Kingfisher stuff is what I expect it to be. I really enjoy her writing. With this, we have a paladin whose god has died, who has been killed actually, and we follow him 3 years after that has happened, where him and a few of his brothers are now surviving and still being custodians to the city that they live in by joining another temple that does not worship a god, but they help around the town doing different things, escorting people, cleaning up after disasters, such and such, and how he finds this attraction between this perfumer who is on the run from a troubled life, and they have a mutual attraction to each other. And there's a serial killer on the loose, and also there is somebody who is trying to kill a visiting monarch. This is so good. It has a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystery, a whole lot of romance, and it's really nice to read a book that has actual adults in it, like not just freshly 19 people. I believe they're both in their 30s. It was, dare I say, cozy. I liked it a lot, and I actually can't wait to continue with this series. T. Kingfisher is, I think, an auto read for me. And that concludes my quarterly wrap up for these past 3 months. I can't remember the other 2 months, so I can't really say much. Let me know what books that you've read in this first quarter of the year that you absolutely loved or absolutely hated. I want to know both. Thank you. Talk to you guys later. Bye.